Hi, Aslam class. Welcome to your computing lesson for today. We are carrying on with the theme of e-safety, and this week's lesson on e-safety is all about how things are different today to how they were many, many years ago in terms of sending out messages to each other. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And this is quite important because I think what a lot of us forget to realize is that with the internet nowadays, sending messages is very different to how we used to send messages 40 odd years ago. So it is important that you to pay attention in this lesson because there are going to be some themes that we need to really sort of discuss and think about. So today is all about, can you understand how the internet is used for messaging? And especially now in the days of social media, I know you guys probably shouldn't really have social media, but already that we've seen on Teams that you are communicating with each other on there. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail as we go along through the slides. So remember, as all with e-safety, when it comes to if you find something that you are not happy about or you find a little bit worrying or concerning, you see online or someone you're playing a game, and someone says something to you that is that you don't think is right, always talk to a trusted adult, and that is somebody who is over the age of 18, probably your parents, probably the best, or if you've got an older brother or sister, or your teachers, anyone who is a trusted adult. Or if you don't want to talk to a trusted adult, but you want to share something and you want to, if you're not happy about something, not really too sure what to do, you can always call Childline. That's free. It's 0800 1111. Nice, easy number to remember. Okay, so at the top here, we can see that we're in the year 1940. And in 1940, at the time, Britain was in a war with Germany, and it was the World War II. Now, here we have a picture that was aimed at, well, I'm not going to say too much because, you know, I don't want you to do the lesson. You know, as part of the lesson is to think about it, I suppose. Here we have a picture and it says Dr. Carrot, the children's best friends. He's carrying a briefcase called Vit A, okay, and he's running along. And what I would like you to think about is, what do you think the purpose of this poster is, okay? And what effect do you think it had on children in 1940? So you can pause the video and have a little think about it. Maybe jot down some ideas if you want to. Now, welcome back. Now, when we have a look at this picture, the purpose of this picture really is to encourage children to be eating their vegetables like carrots. It's called Dr. Carrot. Doctor, children see doctors as people who are, you know, they're intelligent. Doctors know how to keep us healthy. So a doctor is telling you, you know, it is a child's best friend. The fact that our doctor is a carrot is also sort of telling us that, you know, doctors are good, carrots are good. He's carrying a briefcase of vitamin A, which is good for you as well. Also, the doctor looks quite well off, so that gives the impression that in them days, maybe even still today, that doctors are fairly wealthy as well. But here it says it's the children's best friend, and it's encouraging children to eat carrots or vegetables, get vitamin A in their bodies. Now, in 1940, what kind of effect do you think it had on the children? Well, back then, children didn't have things like TVs in their home. They didn't have tablets or Nintendo Switches or smartphones. I mean, mobile phones weren't even a thing. You'd be lucky if you had a TV in your home back in them days. So the children probably found this quite exciting, especially if they saw it on a billboard or in one of their comic books. They would have looked at this and gone, oh, wow, haha, maybe found it funny. Oh, yes, I'm going to eat carrots. So the whole idea was to encourage children to eat carrots. And it probably did have that effect on them, especially because for them, this would have been quite funny to see. Now, here's another few questions for you to think about. How do you think this image was made? And remember, we're in 1940, so there wouldn't have been anything like computers. What materials and machines do you think may have been used? And for the last one, How long do you think it would have taken for just 1,000 people to view this picture? So you can pause the video and think about them questions. You may want to jot down some answers if you want to. Okay, welcome back. So let's go through them. How do you think it was made? Well, without computers, there was no such thing as somebody drawing this up on a computer screen and editing it by the click of a mouse. Oh no, this was done by hand. Someone would have had to have drawn this out by hand, paint it in hand, all hand done. In some cases, they may have used something called wood carving, where they would have embossed it onto a, they would have cut like a carving out of it, maybe onto bronze. And then that leads onto our next question. That's how they would then print. So this image would have been carved out onto a bronze tablet, which would have then had ink gone over the top of it. It would have been pressed onto a piece of paper, and then it would have been printed. Okay, and they would have printed that all day long. Put the piece of paper in, press it down, out it comes, put another piece of paper in. And it was all done probably manually in that time. So it would have taken a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of work to get that printed out. And for 1,000 people to see it, you would obviously need to have 1,000 prints. You would then have to get it into magazines. You would then maybe have to go up on a big billboard so people could see it. And that would take time. It would take, from the moment the person started drawing this, it could take up to maybe a week or 2 weeks before 1,000 people would see it. But today, things are a lot different. What I would like you to do very quickly is write a list of ways that we can send each other messages today. Okay, and let's see, I know that was a poster, but let's treat that as a message for children. Okay, you can pause the video, or if you've done it, you can unpause now. And we're going to have a look at some things that you may have come up with. These are just some ideas that you may think. So here, we can use Facebook to message each other today, WhatsApp, there's an app called Telegram, there's Line where you can ring people up for across seas. You've got instant messenger, we've got messages on your, there's a default on your phone. Google, you can leave messages on YouTube as well, Instagram, there's Twitter. There are loads of different ways that we can send messages today. Okay? In this world of technology that we live in, it's very easy to send a message. Now, the speed of messaging is what we really need to think about as well. So we talk about in 1940, okay? So you would write a message, okay, or let's say that poster, you would have to then, once it was drawn or written, you would then have to send it to a printers to be printed out. That could take quite a long time to print out 1,000 things. So it may take a day to get there and a day to print out any messages. Once it's left the printers, it then needs to travel to its different destinations. It needs to go into shops. Does it need to go up on a billboard? If it goes up on a billboard, then you need to start gluing it up and putting it on there. So again, it would, that may take another couple of days to be done. And then as we carry on the journey, the message then needs to be displayed on walls, or people need to buy the newspapers or the comic books that these messages are in. If you wanted to just send a letter to someone, this process would also be the same. And obviously we can send messages handwritten as well still. And then we get to 1,000 views. That could be about 4 or 6 days later. So in total, you're looking at maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, sometimes even longer, depending on what the message is. If you were to send a letter to someone, you write it, put it in the post box, it could take up to 3 days before that person can read that message. So in 1940, it was a lot longer to get across a message to a lot of people. Today, it's very different. I can write my message online, press enter, send it, and within 10 minutes, I could have at least 1,000 views. Okay, And that is what we call something going viral nowadays. And it happens very quickly because the internet has enabled us to communicate very, very, very quickly. Now in class, I would have got you all up to do an experiment. And we would have got all in one line, okay, across the room. And I would have asked someone at one end of the line to tap somebody's shoulder in front of them. And when you feel that you've got the tap on the shoulder, you can tap somebody else on the shoulder in front of you. And the idea would be with that long line, I would time you. It'd probably take about 8 seconds or so for you to send that message. And that would represent what it was maybe like in 1940. Take a longer time. But then if I got you into a pyramid, okay, set you out in a pyramid, okay, and one person at the back would then tap 2 in front, and then them 2 would tap 3, and then them 3 would tap the other children in front of them. I would time how long that tap would take to get from the first person to the people furthest away in the pyramid. And that would have taken maybe 1 second. I think the quickest I ever done that in was 0.68 seconds, which is very, very quick. And that goes to show that today, with the use of messaging on the internet, it goes very, very quick, very, very quick. As soon as you press enter, potentially you could have, if people are on that page at that time, you could potentially have 1,000 views within 10 minutes. Okay, so very, very important to think about what we're putting online, of course, isn't it? And then once you put your message online, where does it go? Well, in 1940, if you had a message that was given to you, you could easily just rip it up once you've read it, or recycle it, put it in the bin. You can do whatever you want with it, really. You can keep it. But if you, most newspapers or messages would probably have been disposed of. Okay, you probably would only have kept the sentimental ones, things that are a personal attachment to you. Today, you leave a digital imprint online. Basically, what that means is everything that you post online, no matter whether you've deleted it from your end, it is out there on the internet, and everyone can, well, not everyone, but it is accessible to everyone. Okay. For instance, you know, we all have unique fingerprints, and you can tell someone's identity just by matching up their fingerprints. So if I left my fingerprint on the table, someone then, if you took a test, you could tell that I touched the table. It's the same online in the digital world. You leave a message online, it can be traced and people know who sent that message. And people, celebrities, even today, I remember a few years ago, if you ever watched a program, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, there was somebody who was on that show, and within 2 days, they had to leave the show because of inappropriate messages that they had put onto their own social media page about 8 years ago, before even the show. And it all came up and resurfaced. And this was on a website called MySpace that people don't really use anymore. So yeah, it can still come up and sort of get you. You know, everything you put online stays online. Doesn't matter whether you've deleted it from your end, it's still out there. I used to have a Facebook account. I deactivated my Facebook account about 10 years ago, okay, because I didn't really want to use it anymore. So I don't have a Facebook account. However, if I went in to log in using that account and reactivated it, all my pictures, all my comments that I had made 10 years, 12 years ago would still be there. So you can't get rid of it, okay? And that's very important, because when we talk about using online messaging, you can never get rid of what you put down, and you can never take back what you said. And that's the same with texting and things like that. So you have to be very careful. At least when you are in 1940, if you've got a message, you could get rid of it. Or if you're speaking to someone face to face, you've got that time to think about it. But as soon as you press enter online or send a message, that's it, it's out there and you can't take it back. And people are, you know, unfortunately do send things that they really shouldn't send to each other. Even on our team's message board, I don't think that's being used entirely correctly, which is why I then had to create loads of different other message folders for you guys, because, you know, all their messages that are up there, they're there now, aren't they? And you can see it. Every message you put up, you can't take it off. It's there. So it's a very, very important that you think about what you're going to put online. Okay, I'm not saying you're not allowed to write messages, but you have to think about what you're writing. You wouldn't say something nasty to someone in up close outside. Well, I hope you wouldn't. So you shouldn't be doing it online. And the thing is, when it's online, it's there. You can't get rid of it. All right. And if for one day you may get into trouble and I don't know, you're in, you know, I'm not saying it would happen, but just let's take example, you do something wrong, you end up in front of a judge in a courtroom and the evidence is against you because you wrote messages online and you can't get rid of them. Okay, so be very careful with what you put online. Which leads us on to our challenges. So challenge number 1, make a poster that shows how quick messages are sent today. Okay, don't worry about what they were like in 1940. For challenge 1, just make a poster about how quick messages can be sent today. Number 2, write down an online guide when it comes to posting messages online. So if you don't want to do the first one, you want to write it down, then you can do. And number 3, this is for those of you who really want to challenge. Write a comparison in paragraphs how messages are sent now and compare that to how they were sent in 1940. And also comment on how messages were kept and what we can do with messages nowadays. But the main message of today is that, number 1, messages can be sent very quickly nowadays. So as soon as you press that enter button, it's very easy for many people to see that message compared to what it was like 40 odd years ago, 60 odd years ago. Now I leave a comment on YouTube and within seconds, everyone can have a look at that comment who's looking at that video. 40 odd years ago, if I looked at a video, I made comments on it in a room, it may not, you know, only about 10 people may hear that comment. Nowadays, everyone who's online or can access it will be able to see it. So messaging today, lots more people can actually see what you're doing. And of course, today online, anything you put online stays online. It's like your fingerprint. Stays there, yeah? So be careful what you're sending out. You have to be nice to each other when you write a message online. Before you press enter, think to yourself, if I read this message, would it make me feel okay? Would it make me feel upset? And if it would make you feel upset, then don't send it, okay? It's that simple. Because if you do send something that's not very nice, and then it leads on to other things, and we find that there's bullying going on, or, you know, just as an example, all the evidence will be there and you won't have a leg to stand on, basically. So be nice to each other online when you're sending messages, but remember the 2 important things. Messages today are sent very, very quickly, and everything you put online stays online. Right, guys, I'm going to go and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day for the rest of your day.